Hello, my name is Max, and today I will be showing you how to connect your smart contract to the Zap platform using Truffle. Now, this is the Zap Truffle template, in which you simply need to go to this and git clone this, follow the instructions, and make sure to initialize and update the submodules, because this adds the Zap contracts to your own as a pseudo library of sorts, as a reference. Now, once you've done that, uh, you can take a look at my dispatch example contract, in which I place an example client and an example oracle. Now, what I'm going to run you through the end-to-end, and when you create a user or client, you want to connect to the Zap platform, you'll need what's called the Zap coordinator. Added to the Zap Truffle template is a Zap interface in which contains many relevant functions. You can still dig in the Zap contracts yourself for more and add them to this, but these should be sufficient for most of your needs. I create a Zap for this example. We will be using dispatch, which is the Zap platform. What it uses to make queries, singular queries. And here it says dispatch address equals Zap interface get contract dispatch. That is an address, and dispatch refers to the interface itself. And the one thing that's important to have is that you eventually call dispatch.query with your relevant address, Oracle address, query, endpoint, and endpoint parameters, and one of 6 callback functions, depending on whether you want a bytes 32 response, an int response, or a string response. Now, once you call test query, it'll call dispatch.query, at which point it creates an ID for you, returns that to you for storage, and then based on whether it's on-chain or off-chain, either calls a receive function or emits an incoming function. Now, like I said before, your off-chain function needs to be able to listen for incoming functions, and your on-chain oracle needs to have a receive function, which receives the query ID, the user query, the endpoint params, and whether or not the subscriber is on-chain or off-chain. After you're done handling the data, whether it's addition, subtraction, or even just calling another function off-chain, what will eventually need to happen is that you'll need to run either dispatch respond 1, 2, 3, or 4, depending on how many strings you're returning, or there's also dispatch.respond bytes 32 array and the dispatch.respond int array. But for our example, we will be using respond 1, in which we need to return the query ID that we've been passed before to identify us, and the answer that we plan on responding with. Now, in the example oracle, besides the receive function and the respond call, you'll need to also make a Zap interface for registry in order to create your oracle. Simply call registry.initiateProvider with with some public key and your oracle's title, and then you initiate your provider curve using your example endpoint, the bonding curve that you wanted to have, and the broker. The broker can, if the address is 0, then it is an open contract and anyone can call it. However, if you specify a specific address, then only that one address can call your receive function. Now, or rather, only one address can query you. My mistake. Now, here is my truffle test, in which I have a template for creating every single Zap contract and deploying a test version of it. And here you have querying an on-chain source and an off-chain source. Now, in the on-chain source, before anything happens, Zap has to be allocated to the subscriber in order to query the owner. Now, and then you have to run token.approve so that bondage.delegate bond, which is what actually bonds allows you to purchase queries using Zap, before finally you run test query, which as I said before, goes through the entire pipeline that I mentioned before. After it goes through all that, I have it set such that it will emit as an event the response 1, and as well as other non-important strings. In the off-chain source, I created a random off-chain oracle, which I have also gone over in a previous video, and I have initiated an example endpoint off-chain. The difference here is we have to listen for incoming events, as noted here, which is the watcher for events. We go through the same approve, delegate bond, and test query, and in this example case, we will respond with off-chain answer, and the result should be off-chain answer. Now, of course, if in order to run these tests, you need to have your development running. So make sure that your truffle config is just as you like it, and in this case I'll be using Ganache Cly P9545 I development, and now this is my example node, and here I will be running truffle test 2 example pipeline. And it should be going through any second now. There we go. It's compiling, and it should be going after it compiles. it should then go through the pipeline as mentioned before, and both tests pass. Now, after that, all that's left to do is to update either the dispatch example to, and either remove the user if you plan on becoming an oracle, or remove the example oracle if you plan on becoming a user that connects to an off-chain oracle. Either works. Thank you for listening. It's been